For the Pleiades, you go off the bright star Sirius if it's in the sky. It's actually pretty low in the sky in Alaska, and Orion. And then you go further out and you find the bright star Aldebaran, which is in the constellation of Taurus. And to me, it looks kind of like an arrowhead. It's actually the snout of the bull with the horns of the bull over here. And so I zoom on further on this one here. Here it's a little bit better to see. So there's the snout or the arrowhead, and the Pleiades are lying off to the side. And with the naked eye, again, depending on eyesight, you might be able to see 5 to 8 stars in that neighborhood. It's actually called the Seven Sisters because I guess on average somebody with good eyesight can see 7 such stars. There are several hundred in the Pleiades. Okay, you're not going to see that much in binoculars, but maybe of this size here. The Andromeda Galaxy or Andromeda Nebula already shows in this image. It's a little unfortunate. It looks brighter than what it really is. I can actually see it pretty much right away, but that's because I have a lot of practice in doing so. I would go off the following. This one here is the great square of Pegasus. So inside the winged horse, you look for this great square. Depending, it may look like a baseball diamond to you. And of the star on the upper left, you're going to go off to Orion. I'm sorry, Andromeda. So you go off to Andromeda, and I'm going to zoom in here. And again, this is the bright star on the upper left of the great square. And now watch this. There is a row of 3 stars of 2. There's a couple here, there's a couple here, and there are a couple over here. And it's the second one, couple here, that the Andromeda Nebula lies above. Again, this is too bright here. You're not going to see it that bright. So you go a little bit up here, maybe the same distance of these 2 stars from each other, and you find this blob, and you can see it with averted vision, so you can look a little bit to the side and you see it there with your naked eye. And then with binoculars, you might be able to see get this much here. There's already detail in this image here with binoculars. Yeah, you're gonna see kind of an elongated, foggy blob in the sky, and of course with a really good telescope, you might get something like this. The double cluster in Perseus, you're going off the constellation of Cassiopeia, which looks like a W, which is not too far from Polaris, the North Star, and on the other side here is the constellation of Perseus that harbors the double cluster. By the way, it's not this one here. These are, I think, a couple of galaxies that are looking just too bright on this Google sky. And then when I zoom in here, these are probably too hard to figure out with the naked eye, so you have to use binoculars. Again, over here is the Cassiopeia. There's the W. And then over here is Perseus, and then with binoculars, you're kind of scanning this area. Don't look for these 2 objects. They're way too faint. Again, I don't know why they make some of these objects so bright. And then they come into view here, and with binoculars you might, yeah, you probably are able to see this much here. So there's one cluster, and there's the other cluster. By the way, in order to find them on Google Sky, I actually had to look up the catalog name for at least one of them, NGC 884, in order to find it, because it didn't accept my search of double cluster and Perseus. And a good telescope, you might be able to see them like this here with their individual stars resolved. Algol stands out a little more in the sky than what is suggested here, but it still takes a little bit of effort to find it. In the lower right here, here's that great square of Pegasus with Andromeda. These three double stars are kind of arcing off. And then over here is Cassiopeia, the W. And then over here is Perseus. And if I take that one star here from Andromeda and I take the brightest one in Perseus, and then I go over here, this one is Algol, making a nice right triangle with the star here in Andromeda and the brightest star in Perseus. And it's also easy to see that there's a second star right next to it, right there. And when I zoom in further, here we go. Usually Algol is of almost the same brightness as the brightest star in Perseus and the star in Andromeda, but every 2 to 3 days it's being eclipsed by its fainter component, and that actually will make Algol about as faint as its companion star over here.